And I really do believe that the best scores are the ones that really don't notice but enhance the game anyway. The ones that they're really unobtrusive, right? And if they're done right, if they're implemented correctly, and not just compositionally, but also the technical implementation in terms of how we change up the tracks and intensity level and so forth, it can really help you connect to the game on a personal level, right? There's almost like a dramatic connection, an emotional connection to the music and to the game itself. And I have an example of Faster Than Light here from Ben Prunty. This is what I feel like really minimalist electronic music, and yet it fits the game perfectly. The style matches the art, matches the design, matches the gameplay. It's just perfect. And I believe you wanted to do interactive music. That was the goal, or adaptive music, and it never panned out. So it just, the music kind of meanders, rises and falls a little bit as if it is interactive, but it actually is not. And that's okay. So I will move on. One of the things that happens in music composition is that there's this tendency to want to try to write for the whole game, all the time. Every moment there's going to be music, and that's the way it's going to be. But sometimes we want to kind of space it out. We don't have to have music playing all the time. And sometimes if we have music that's low key, it's just very kind of just subtle, very quiet. Suddenly, if you have a dramatic, dynamic burst, it feels powerful. It goes really a long way. Okay. If you get something that's too high energy, like say it's a race game or some kind of like a Mortal Kombat fight type game where the music is just high energy all the time, eventually people are going to just tune out of the music. Your ears will actually get fatigued from listening to it, even if you're not aware of it consciously, right? And so as a composer working with the game designers and the whole team, you might want to consider just, taking a break, either having the music low key and then have these punctuated dynamic bursts when you need them, or just not playing music for a while. Take 20 seconds of silence and then intersperse the tunes that way between breaks. Anyway, whatever you decide to do, you need to have enough music in your game to keep people from turning it off. And I don't know what that magic number is. It really depends on the game you're designing. If you have Pong, the next generation, you may not need a ton of music. But if you have another Elder Scrolls game that's coming out, you're working with Bethesda or something, you may want to have quite a bit of music. I think, or a game like Destiny, there may be a couple hours of music in there, and it may not even be enough. But that's where we can start to play some tricks, have some techniques to make that music go a little bit further, which you will see in just a moment. All right. So we can have linear tracks, just play a jukebox or some playlist based on intensity level or a particular mission or level you're on. All right. We could just loop short pieces of music and stitch them together. We could have MIDI files that are sampled, right? We could have like what they call a general MIDI bank that can be played. There's a universal kind of series, a library of tunes, like code 001 is a piano, numbers 049 are strings, and so forth. And there are 128 of these banks, or programs, I should say, that are universal with MIDI that are automatically called up. But you need to have a synthesizer to play those. And sometimes we just load a whole bunch of samples into RAM to be able to play those. Okay, and then we have interactive tracks or adaptive tracks. Maybe we have both. They're just some short pieces that we have a set of parameters or rules that we pass around, and those could be or feel linear, but generally they are looping. When I worked with EA on SimCity Societies, the original idea for the game was to have a bunch of nodes, and so we had this music that was adaptive. And in a way, it could be interactive as well, because we had these tiers, and so you have these kind of horizontally is the adaptive part, where it's just some random element, like a verse that's chosen, and they're all kind of the same, but there's just something a little bit different about each one. And then as your city improves, it gets more complex. We go down to the next level, down to the next level, down to the next level. So the music is becoming more and more intense. Here is an example of the cyberpunk city. So the intro is the same when you start the game, no matter what. Funnels down to a chorus, and then it kind of branches out again, so on and so forth. And this is just an example, but it would be something like this. So here's the intro. See if I can time it right here. All right, I gotta choose a verse. Right, so this is just a really kind of sparse version of the beginning almost. Do the chorus. Everything goes here. I'll choose a second verse. And so on. So you get the idea. And this would just continue on. And eventually when you're done the city, it would go into an outro and then maybe kind of loop back again. Probably the last two nodes or something like that. And that was the idea behind the interactive / adaptive music choir here. Soothing you with the sounds of a dystopian society. So there you have it. Okay, plot advancement, cutscenes and tie-ins. Some games do rely heavily on storytelling, like a game like Fable, any of the Fable series, for example. And so here the music's going to try to follow the story very closely, whether you decide to you're making decisions that are steeped in kindness, being good, or perhaps you're doing something kind of wicked, doing something evil, and your character in the original Fable, your character would actually physically change features, so you start to look like almost like an evil creature if you were doing bad things, and then as you became good, you have these more kind of pure human features, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, musical passage is going to help tell a story, and we hear those during transitional moments. Something that's kind of bridging two levels together, for example, like a tie-in, all right? And oftentimes there's no need to be interactive with that, just a short little music clip, and they tend to be linear, okay? Sometimes it's part of a cutscene or a cinematic, and so we just go ahead and make the highest quality tune possible, whether it's stereo or some surround tune, it doesn't matter. And then we have win or lose cues. Again, these tend to be very short. And I'm being speculative here. I'm not saying that your game or every game has these, but when we do, they're short pieces that will have a defining moment of victory or defeat, right? And these are great for campaigns and quests and all that sort of thing. And as you would imagine, you have kind of depressing, slower tempo cues for losing and more happy, upbeat ones for winning. Sometimes a game may only have one tune you hear over and over again, or you may have a whole bunch of different ones. Again, it depends on the game and how much time you have and what your budget is.